Hey everybody, I'm out here in the Molalla River public lands and I'm going on an adventure up this trail. It's called the Huckleberry Trail and I'm gonna try and I think get all the way to the top of the ridge and see what I can see. Now, this is an area that is not so far from where I grew up. My grandparents lived in Molalla and they had this beautiful 5-acre parcel that sat right on a creek, and the neighbor across the way had a petrified wood mecca in one of their fields. It was so crazy fun because my grandpa would take us across the creek into the neighbor's tree farm. He had permission, maybe. And we'd take gunny sacks, empty gunny sacks for chicken feed with us. And we would pick up petrified wood. There was just line everywhere. Amazing. I think that's where my love of rocks started. And we would walk the gullies and we would find these pieces of wood that were stone, that were crystallized and agatized. And my grandpa was a great storyteller. He would tell us how old these things were and where did they come from, and oh my gosh, we'd fill up our sacks. And so this is not super far from there, but I've never been here before. I did not even know that this existed until today. You never know what you can find in your own backyard. And the reason that I found it was because I was hanging with my dear friend Marcy and her sweet, scrumptious baby Scarlett. And she and I met in Canby. I didn't want to drive all the way down to Silver Falls because that's like another hour. So I just started poking around on the internet, like where are some hikes near Canby? And it just so happened that it suggested the Molalla River corridor. So I was like, yeah. And plugged in some coordinates, took off down the road, and here I am. So the backyard is gorgeous. I would say this is an old logging road, which, just to pause, I recently wrote a story on decommissioning logging roads for Metro, which is one of our local governments here. And they were going through the process of turning the land back into land that wasn't being, exploited for timber resources. And the process of going through digging up these roads is actually pretty intense because this is just compacted gravel, like 18 inches of compacted gravel, unless this isn't decommissioned, still very much a road. And what happens is that because it's compacted gravel, there's no permeability, yes, got that. Got a slight brain bruise last week from skiing, so feeling some of the after effects of that maybe. But anyway, so there's no ground permeability, which means that the water just runs down these roads. It doesn't actually sink into the ground. And so it creates major erosion problems. They usually will run pipe or culvert underneath the roads when there are little upland watershed streams, seasonal creeks, that sort of thing. And so it really ends up messing up the watershed ecosystem too, because those pipes and culverts often fail. Yeah, which means that the water kind of seeps into the ground, or it doesn't flow freely to carry all the nutrients downstream to the fish and the other creatures that depend on the watershed water for life. So these are old logging roads. I've come to a fork in the road. Which way should I go? Good question. There's that way and that way. And I think both of them go up. One of them is harder than the other. Let's go over here and see if there's any guidance. Because I do have, nope, I do have All Trails app, but no reception, which is why I'm recording this on my video instead of my live function. So anyway, well, maybe I'll just finish the story and then figure it out and bring you back. And so anyway, these logging roads, to dig them up and to make them rewilded, essentially, you have to remove 18 inches of ground and you have to scarify. It's called scarification, which is roughing up the ground, right? So you dig and you cause trauma basically to get all this compacted gravel off. And then you bring plant material, ideally native plant material or other material that you've removed from taking out the culverts and resculpting those washes to resemble the upstream and downstream topography of the watershed. Oh, there's a sign up here. Let's go check this out. And so you replace the external materials that were brought in, i.e. the gravel, with native materials like dirt and fallen debris, tree branches, leaves, etc., logs. And then you put in native plants like ferns. You can see the sword ferns in the background here. And then a lot of times they'll put down some sort of like coconut fiber mat that is planted with reeds or rushes or different native plants to be able to fluff things up again. And then you just leave it alone. And so this land would probably benefit from that quite a lot, because we are definitely on old logging roads. Okay, let's see. What do we have here? We have the Rim Trail, which is closed seasonally, which is 2.75 miles. And then we have Looney's Trail, which is 1 mile, and it's also closed seasonally to horses. Rim Trail seems like the move. I think that's going to be a little harder and a little bit more elevation. So anyway, this is what it looks like. Up we go into the wild. All right, I'll catch you on the flip side. Bye. Maybe.